Hello everyone, my name is Ibnu Annas, and today's afternoon I will be taking about an important topic in this study of language. It's about applied linguistic and the language use. So this presentation will explain that what can applied in the linguistic is and how language is used in the real life and how both of them are connected in the real world context. So the first one, what is an app? What is applied linguistics? So applied linguistics is the study of a language-related problem that happen in the real life. So it doesn't just focus on the language theory, but rather how we use the language and how it affects the society. For example, it helps issues in the language education, communication, translation, or maybe policy making. As a Richard and Smith 2010 explained, applied linguistics connect the linguistic theory with the practice, and that makes it very useful in many areas of life. Next is, what is a language use? Language use means that how people actually use the language in a different social culture. So that means this includes things like the register or maybe speak formally, informally, our communication style, code switching, code mixing, pragmatics, and how the meaning has changed depending on the context. Language use is also reflects our identity, our social identity, relationship, and maybe power dynamics. According to UA, according to ULE 2016, language use isn't just about the grammar, but about the real communication in everyday's life. So let's head it to the connection between applied linguistics and the language use. How are these two things connect? Applied linguistics analyze how people use language in real-world communities, like how they communication. By studying language use, applied linguistics can better understand how meaning is constructed, how understanding happens, and how the language influence the society itself. So this connection help us to create a better tools for learning, social impact, translating, or maybe managing the communication. Now, let's talk about what the real life application is. Applied linguistics can be seen in many areas of our life. First one is in discourse analysis. In discourse analysis, it helps us to understand how politicians or media shapes the message with their own education. And the next is sociolinguistic. It studies how language can change depending on our social group. But different from the two topics in discourse analysis and sociolinguistic, there are other tools that about language policy and about the law. While language policy is supports the bilingual communication, bilingual education. While law, it explains how legal the language can works and how can be to be misunderstood. And now, why is it so important to study it about applied linguistics and language use? So why does this matter? Applied linguistics help us to improve the communication that can be promotes the better communication across the culture or maybe the context. And it's useful in many fields like maybe teaching, education, journalism, translation, law, and publicity policy. And more importantly, the last one, it helps us to identify and solve the real world communication problems like language misunderstanding, discrimination, or miscommunication in legal medical settings. And finally, we have the conclusion about the applied linguistic and language use. The first one is language use is at the center on how we interact with the world. And applied linguistics give us the tools to study and improve the interaction in our society. And it is constantly evolving field that brings the dynamic, brings the language theory into the practical and real world use in our real life. So this is my reference about my material today about applied linguistic and language use. It's from Richard G. It's about Richard G. and Smith 2010 with the book. The title is Longman Dictionary of Language Teaching and Applied Linguistics. And the last one is Eulogy 2016 with the title is The Study of Language, 6th edition. I think that's all, and that's the end of my presentation. I hope that this explanation it helps you to understand about the applied linguistic and the language use in our real life solution. Thank you very much for watching and listening about my presentation. I hope you found it helpful and interesting. Thank you.